Moving on to discussion items. We have our Prop 39.
So thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Mr. Chris Van Schack. He's our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services. And as you know, he also functions in the oversight capacity as our district point of contact and liaison for the Livermore Valley Charter School. And tonight he'll be talking about our obligation to Prop 39 and our preliminary offer, because we are obligated by law to provide certain facilities and furnishings upon request to the charter.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowers. That is correct. Proposition 39 does require school districts to provide comparable facilities, which include furnishings to charter schools who have our students attending. And so tonight, I'm going to discuss the process that we've been going through to determine the furnishings that we will be providing for the charter schools in our area. So just to give you a sense of timelines, in November, Tri-Valley Learning Corporation presented us with a request for furniture and furnishings for next school year. And we were required by law by December to respond to their enrollment projections, which we did. And primarily it's whether or not their enrollment projections are reasonable given their history and given our knowledge of students in our district. And so we did that. And then by February 1st, which is this evening, this is our, February 1st is a little bit ahead, but this is the last board meeting before the deadline. We are required to provide them a written response to their requests, and so I will be going over that this evening. Then by March 1st, they would respond to our request, and then by April, we would make sort of a final offer. And so they've requested a number of different items, including furnishings for their high school. And so in the slide in front of you is our response to them. They've asked for desks and chairs for 100 new students, and 100 represents an increase in enrollment, and specifically the students who would be attending our district schools. And so they've asked for desks and chairs and science tables and computer workstations and lockers. And the process that we go through is they ask us for furnishings, and we apply the same ratio that we would for students who are in our district. So for example, a school like Granada might have 2,000 students and 500 lockers, and so we would figure it's a 4-to-1 ratio. Therefore, when they ask for, they have 100 students, we would offer them 25 lockers. And so we apply those ratios to all of the furnishings that they request, and so we make an offer. And secondly, they've asked for athletic facilities, gymnasium space, field space. They have athletics as we do, and so they currently use some of our facilities. And so we are making an offer of sharing those facilities with them at times that we would arrange over the next several months. And again, the idea is we're doing all we can not to displace our own sports teams, but to provide adequate facilities so that they can participate as well. In addition to the Livermore Charter Preparatory High School, which is 9 through 12, they've also asked for some minor furnishings or minor facilities for their K-8 school. They currently have a new facility. They have all of the furniture that they need for those students, but they do have a lack of athletic fields, and so they've asked us for gym space, track space, and also facilities to have performing arts programs for their students. And so, again, we've responded with, yes, we will do that. We'll determine times and dates and places in the future. So this evening, what we're asking the board to do is to consider the offer that we've made to them, determine if you think it's reasonable or not. Letters would go out based upon your input this evening, and again, I would ask you to consider the data that I put in front of you this evening, and if it seems reasonable, then we'll send them a letter with that offer. Questions or comments? I'd be happy to answer or listen.
Smart.
Do we provide such facilities? We've provided them for the classes that are already there, but
Correct.
This is the
Yeah.
additional students that they're expecting next fall.
Correct.
Do we provide for all students or just a few, or?
We provide for additional students is what this offers for, but in the past years we've provided furnishings for the students based upon the requests that they've made to us.
But it's the students from Livermore or
Just
for
from
all
Livermore.
their students?
Just from Livermore.
Oh.
So what they do is they send us a list of all their students and with addresses. We determine the ones who would be attending schools in our school district, and those are the students that we're responsible for.
about how many of the 100 are expected, or how many of the,
100 represents a percentage of about 100, they're expecting 125 additional students
Okay.
next year, and 100 of those
so
are
that's
projected
what
to be
they
ours.
have in their enrollment right
Correct.
now, is
Yes.
about 25 to 100?
Right, correct.
Okay, thanks.
They've also been known to overestimate their high school enrollment by
Oh.
quite a bit, and so part of the letter includes a verification process, but, so this is all projection.
But I mean, you go count noses or whatever.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I do have a question. If in their athletics, and it's all non-Livermore students, do we still have to provide a field?
If they were all non-Livermore students?
Right.
No, we would not. We'd only have to provide facilities for the portion who are Livermore students. The challenge is whether or not, if you've got a baseball team with 16 players, 12 of them are Livermore students, you provide the same field for 12 as you provide for 16.
So if the total team doesn't comprise of Livermore
If
students?
none of their team members would have attended our schools, we're not required to provide them with facilities.
Okay. And also that extends to storage containers? I see that there's 2 storage containers.
Yeah, and again, that's to sort of to store surplus equipment, to keep their PE equipment out of the rain, things like that. And again, we look at what our high schools have. Our high schools have a number of storage containers. We do an estimation of what seems reasonable.
Do they get the same kind of rusty, leaky storage containers that we have at the high schools?
Exactly. We try to provide them with comparable facilities, including rusty storage containers.
But I think
Thank
that
you.
the biggest difference between this and in the past is in the past, we actually had to provide the school facility
Correct.
itself. Now we're down to furnishings and equipment, things that are comparable. Right now, already they have relocated their K-8 school to a different facility, and and I think they're projecting that their high school will also be vacated from Portola. So that's a big difference for the district, as well as the revenue from the lease, but and then the entire facility would not be consumed.
And their long-term plan is to be able to provide their own athletic facilities. They've got some plans in place, hopefully to put in a football field and a soccer field and those other things, so they wouldn't be dependent upon us for our field.
Any questions from the public?
I wanted to just ask a couple questions. Facility-wise, would like a performing arts, like a theater, or like a baseball field, come from using like the high schools?
Correct. That's one option.
So like, if they wanted to do something in like our LHS's theater,
Mhm.
would they put all their dates at the beginning of the year, or would they fill out like an activities request like all the other clubs, or anyone who wants to use it needs to?
Correct. Typically what we do with something like, for example, if they said, we want to have a spring production, we would like to use the Livermore Theater, we'd sit down with the folks that are involved in Livermore Theater, and we'd say, let's come up with some dates that seem reasonable. Again, they've never attempted to displace our groups, but again, they would say, listen, if your spring musical is going to be in the first week in April, maybe ours can be in the third week of April, something like that. And so we try to share as much as possible. The other option, I guess, is we could build them a theater, but I think we'd prefer to just share the one we have.
And it's also, the law says that you can't give them, if we have prime time space, then we have to give comparable prime time space. So for instance, in the use of practice facilities and things, or even a game, if we generally have a Friday night game that's home, we have to allow them to have that option of a Friday night game. It can't be always, they're going to be Sunday morning or something, It has to be comparable because that's the way the law says. And so it really, even in the scheduling, we have to carve out time so that they don't, so they have, even though they don't have equivalent numbers of students, we have thousands of high school students, we still have to give them equivalent time.
So facility-wise, it's as in like but it's equal or fair as in who gets what nights to play there at the facility, even if it's at that high school?
Yeah, and we try to move them. Again, we don't want to be antagonistic in terms of saying, hey, listen, Livermore High School has these dates and you can't have any of those. And so we try to work cooperatively. And our athletic directors and their athletic directors have done a great job in the past of saying, listen, we don't have Livermore High School for you, but would you be willing to use Junction Avenue Middle School gym for these 3 practices? And it's been a very amicable relationship so far. And so, as Mrs. Bowers mentioned, we have to give them comparable facilities. And so what we've done is they've had football games on Friday nights, for example, when our teams are playing away. And so we've shared facilities and not displaced each other. And so that's been it's been pretty positive so far. It's becoming more difficult because their numbers are increasing. And as their numbers increase, the demand for space increases. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge. And again, we're looking forward to them having facilities of their own.
And also, we are stretched with our own facilities. So we have basketball teams practicing at 4:30 in the morning at a gym. So it's okay, so that happens within our own district, which is one of the reasons why we're looking to possibly have a facilities bond or something in the future as a way to fix that even for ourselves. And so it's not as if we have a lot of extra space and facilities for all of these events that we love to host.
Yeah, that was my exact concern. As I know, we have some sports who don't even have their own facility to practice in or they're just jumping around whatever's open, like cheerleaders in the band room. So that was my concern is, are we giving something that we can't even give ourselves?
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation to present this as the February 1st response to the TVLC's proposal.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Mrs. White and seconded by Dr. Dunlop. So all those in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous with Mrs. Runyon absent.